Number 10, Kite Man versus the Riddler. Okay, I'm a sucker for an underdog. In Batman Volume 3, there was the war of jokes and riddles between the Joker and the Riddler, each fueled by their desire to take Batman's life. Each of these lunatics had gathered up a group of villains to their side, and they caused a hell of a lot of damage to Gotham and its people in their war. One person caught in the crossfire would be Charles Brown. Charles became a mole for Batman in Joker's army, and when Riddler found out, he brought Charles's son to an end. Charles became Kite Man and joined up with the Joker to get revenge. With Batman's help, Riddler takes down Joker's army one by one, leaving only Kite Man, who is forced to switch sides. In the final climactic battle though, Kite Man helps Batman and Riddler's army infiltrate the Joker's holdout, and when the battle is won and the villains turn on Batman, Kite Man had a backup plan that allowed him to almost single-handedly incapacitate 8 of the biggest bad guys in Batman's rogues gallery, helping Batman save the day. Never underestimate Kite Man. Hell yeah. Number 9, Captain Cold versus Johnny Quick. If you have not read Forever Evil, I highly recommend you do. It's such a dark and crazy story that sees the villains of the DC universe step into the heroic role to take down an evil Justice League from the alternate reality of Earth 3. Each member of this crime syndicate of America is a sick and twisted perversion of their Prime Earth counterpart, but of them all, Johnny Quick, the stand-in for the Flash, may be the most messed up. He's a completely deranged serial killer in this world, and one villain just can't stand for someone dragging the Flash's name in the dirt like that. Leonard Snart, Captain Cold. In their confrontation, Johnny Quick gets a hold of Cold's weapon, the Cold Gun, and then gloats about how he had taken the life of the alternate Snart on Earth 3, and how Captain Cold is defenseless without his finger on the trigger. Well, it turns out that Snart is smarter than we thought. Captain Cold had rigged up his little freeze ray so that singing Jingle Bells Batman Smells activates the Cold Gun's voice trigger, which is exactly what happens, completely freezing Johnny Quick's leg, which is when Captain Cold takes his big old right boot heel and completely shatters it. Have fun accessing the Speed Force now, you psycho. Number 8, Deadpool versus Bullseye. Reading through issue 11 of the 2008 volume of Deadpool just made me remember why I love Deadpool. Not that I forgot or anything, but man, he's just nuts, which makes it so good when the foe he faces is almost just as bonkers. This time it's Hawkeye, but not actually Hawkeye. It's actually Bullseye dressed up as Hawkeye because this happened during Dark Reign. That's a long story all on its own, and maybe we should attempt to explain that at some point, but for now though, Bullseye/Hawkeye has been contracted to take down Deadpool. In the last issue, he managed to get an arrow right through Mr. Pool's noggin, so in this issue, Deadpool takes it out and his brain is still like half regenerated as he tries to take on Bullseye at this meat farm. Listening to his half-formed brain, he takes cover into a meat locker and decides his best course of action is to, quote, be the meat, and he suits up in a butchered pig, using it as makeshift armor. Wade charges Mr. Bullseye, who had conveniently just run out of arrows. He lands a good crack, which is a kick, a rack, which is a punch, and a crock, which is another punch, and then takes a swift kick to the no-no lands. The fight transitions to the kitchen, where Bullseye comes at Wade with a buzzsaw, and Deadpool, wielding 2 meat hooks, trips, grips, and sends a hook straight through his fellow mercenary's chest. The dynamic between these two psychos is just a treat to read, and I'd honestly recommend just reading the whole of this volume of Deadpool itself. It's fantastic. Number 7, Joker versus Alexander Luthor Jr. The Joker has a special something that just no other villain can really stand up to. What is it? Popularity. People love the Joker. This magic word, popularity, allows the Joker to beat out other villains that in the real world he would never be able to take down. It also allows him to save the day on occasion. In 2005's Infinite Crisis, Earth 3's Alexander Luthor Jr. attempts to remake the multiverse into one, quote, perfect reality. Perfect for him, at least. By the end, he fails. But he finds himself cornered by the Lex Luthor and Joker of New Earth, which is the mainstream continuity, or it was at that point. Joker pretty ruthlessly scars Luthor Jr. with acid and then brings his life to a very sudden end with a bang. And it was all because Alexander didn't include him in his scheme in the first place. Number 6, Bane and Killer Croc. While Killer Croc is one of Batman's strongest enemies, this terrifying villain can't seem to catch a break when facing off against Bane. The pair have clashed many times in the past, and Bane consistently defeats his reptilian rival. Their first ever fight took place in Bane's first introduction to the Batman mythos with Batman Nightfall. While Bane ultimately suffers some wounds, his tactical mind and ability to fight intelligently ultimately triumph over Croc's raw strength and rage. Bane ends up finding and defeating Killer Croc, ruthlessly breaking both of his arms and leaving Croc for the fishes. Later in the arc, Bane and Killer Croc clash again while Bane attempts to interrogate Tim Drake. This time though, Croc disables Bane's venom supply, yet his lust for revenge gets the better of him again and he leaves himself exposed to a nasty uppercut, turning the tide back in Bane's favor yet again. Number 5. Lex Luthor versus Deathstroke. Taking place in Action Comics 892, Lex Luthor has picked up Black Lantern energy in the Arctic, and he hires Deathstroke to come along as some added security. Unfortunately, when Deathstroke goes to investigate the Black Lantern energy, he ends up being corrupted, and Lex Luthor is forced to don his battle armor and hold off Deathstroke as long as possible. Now, even though Luthor's strength is greater with his suit on, Deathstroke is a combat genius and he's fast as hell. This fight is actually pretty awesome and somewhat close, but Deathstroke being able to get Lex with more than a few good hits, and thanks to the Black Lantern energy affecting Lex as well, Deathstroke very nearly takes Lex's life, only to be brought back to his senses at the very last minute. Luckily, it only results in an understandable pay cut for Deathstroke. Number 4. Magneto beating Apocalypse. Magneto and Apocalypse are two incredibly powerful mutant villains with frighteningly similar goals, and yet we never really fully see them properly team up. But we also rarely ever see them fight each other either, except in the Age of Apocalypse reality. In this world, the Mutant Legion had gone back in time in an attempt to bring an end to Magneto, but inadvertently brought an end to Professor Xavier instead, which led to a completely different timeline where Magneto forms and leads the X-Men, and the Mutant Apocalypse has almost completely taken over the whole world. This all came to a head in X-Men Omega. Now, on paper, while Magneto is powerful with a capital P, when compared to Apocalypse, he should be a walk in the park for the second mutant to ever exist. And their fight, going on simultaneously with about 3 or 4 other little skirmishes, is intense. It's full of great lines, crazy twists and turns, but the best part is right near the end. Apocalypse has Magneto on the ropes, and he gloats in his own glory, wondering why the Master of Magnetism is not fighting back. Well, staring straight into Apocalypse's eyes, Magneto simply says, "I can't, I'm concentrating." And then they both look down to see Magneto's hands at Apocalypse's abdomen as he completely rips Apocalypse in two straight down the middle in the most awesome looking panel ever. It's so good. Mwah, Gabella. Number 3, Darkseid versus Doomsday. The two strongest foes Superman has ever faced are almost definitely Darkseid and Doomsday, and when they end up fighting each other, it was absolutely nuts. In Superman/Doomsday, Hunter/Prey #1, Doomsday attacks Apocalypse after returning to life. Now, once Desaad warns his master that Doomsday is demolishing the world, Darkseid decides to take matters into his own hands, and unceremoniously receives a seriously humiliating beating. Darkseid blasts Doomsday with an Omega Beam, and it does pretty much nothing. Doomsday then delivers a series of massive blows that make quick work of the Tyrant. The fact that Doomsday is basically a mindless killing machine means that Darkseid's manipulative fear tactics don't do diddly squat against Doomsday whatsoever. It's so bad that in the following issues, when Superman makes his way to Apocalypse with other DC heroes and attempts to defeat Doomsday once and for all, Darkseid, licking his wounds, actually agrees to help the Man of Steel stop the Beast with the collected group, leaving Doomsday all the way at the end of time to finally defeat him. And in at number 2 today is God King Doom versus Thanos. Okay, to be perfectly frank, this is not a fight. In fact, it's not even a challenge. In the conclusion of 2015's Time Runs Out and the beginning of Secret Wars, Dr. Doom is able to save the entirety of reality from complete destruction at the hands of the Beyonders, stealing their power and merging all reality into a place called Battleworld. Dr. Doom rules over Battleworld as God Emperor, being both the one who saved everything, but also the one who rules with absolute power, just as he always wanted. Now, a few characters show up on Battleworld from Earth 616, having stowed away on an ark capable of surviving the end of everything. With their full memories of the world before still intact, they try to stop Doom and put things back to normal. One of these individuals would be Thanos. Thanos, being the rightly smug, extremely powerful Mad Titan that he is, decides to challenge challenge Doom straight on and refuses all of Doom's offers to just work with him. Thanos goes on some little rant about how when he had the Infinity Gauntlet, he acted as a god, calling Doom a weak god. In retort, Doom goes, "And do you have an Infinity Gauntlet now?" To which Thanos replies, I do not, but I remain Thanos the Great Tyrant, and for you, that will be enough. Then, in one quick move, Doom simply plunges his hand into Thanos' chest, grabs a hold of his spine, and turns his body to ash as he says, "That appears untrue," leaving one of the most amazing comic book panels I have ever seen in my entire life. It's so cool. And finally, in at number 1 today, it's Molecule Man versus the Beyonder. The first Secret Wars event introduced one of the most powerful cosmic beings in the Marvel Universe, the Beyonder, who took the heroes and villains away to a patchwork planet known as Battleworld to observe the ultimate battle between good and evil. Now, the race that the Beyonder was a part of, the Beyonders, has also created the Molecule Man, Owen Reese. Molecule Man could manipulate matter and energy at the molecular level, giving him near godlike abilities on the same level as the Beyonder, which led to their ongoing rivalry. They have clashed a few times, but my favorite one would be in Secret Wars number 2. The Molecule Man attacked Beyonder directly, and the two were locked in combat. Their powerful energies were causing massive damage to the Rocky Mountains, and it threatened to destroy the entire Earth. It wasn't until the Beyonder attempted one final time to become human, using a giant machine that recreated him as a human baby. That is when Owen was forced to use his powers to slay the infant Beyonder and send all his massive energies back out into the universe that it originated from. Number 10, Venom vs. Sandman. In Peter Parker's Spider-Man Volume 1, number 16, Sandman took to reforming the Sinister Six to go after Spider-Man. Now, one of those six was Eddie Brock, aka Venom. Venom now has a vendetta against the Sinister Six, though, because they embarrassed him pretty badly. Now, during their scuffle that took place inside the Daily Bugle, things quickly take a turn for the choppy as Venom takes a huge chunk out of Sandman's body, digesting it, and this causes Sandman to destabilize and break down. Unable to stop himself from falling apart, Sandman heads for the hills, leaving Venom to fight Spider-Man alone. It's a pretty awful and pretty quick loss for Sandman, who does eventually return, but not as his old self, as the years spent separated from his corporeal form left his mind in tatters.
And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, be sure to show us you love us by checking out our playlist. We got a villain playlist as well, so if you like villains, we got you. Number 9, Morgan Le Fay versus Dr. Doom. Morgan Le Fay and Dr. Doom have faced off before, and honestly, when it comes to like who would win here, I feel like either could take down their opponent. I might even honestly give the edge to Morgan Le Fay when it comes to just like raw power and magical skill, but what he might lack in raw power, Doom certainly makes up for in ingenuity. Le Fay's mistake was going to attack Doom in his own time, because she is from the past. Using the time cube he then acquired, he was able to use this fact against her to defeat her, sending her on a one-way ticket home to the Middle Ages. Sort of. I mean, she would actually have to like fight her way back to her time too. It's pretty wild. In fact, Doom actually could have even probably destroyed her here, but he either chose not to because perhaps a part of him still, I don't know, had romantic feelings for her, or because she herself was tied to him through time, so doing so would maybe cause him to be harmed or something like that.
Number 8, Joker vs. Red Skull. Now look, the Joker is a maniac, an absolutely insane criminal lunatic, but hey, he is an American criminal lunatic, which means dealing with someone with the past of the Red Skull is an absolute no-no for him. Yes, these two villains teamed up together in the Batman and Captain America team-up special back when DC and Marvel actually got along with each other. Now naturally, these heroes' two greatest villains team up to take them on, but I guess it turns out that even the Joker is above the morals of a World War II era war criminal. The Red Skull hires the Joker to steal an atomic doomsday device, which the Clown Prince of Crime totally agrees to do, until he sees Red Skull waltz out with a certain symbol front and center on his outfit, indicating his involvement in World War II, which is then confidently confirmed by the Red Skull. This is when the Joker delivers the line about being an American criminal lunatic, and the two simultaneously attack each other, Joker with his venom and Red Skull with his dust of death, which they are both immune to. This is when Joker then gets smacked over the back of the head with a wrench. Eventually, the fight makes it onto a plane where the Joker overpowers Red Skull and they both go tumbling down through the the sky alongside the atomic device that they stole, destroying them both in the Atlantic Ocean. I don't know if I'm shocked at Joker switching sides or at the fact that they had a fist fight while straddling on top of an active fat boy. It's one of the two.
Number 7. Magneto vs. Uranos. One of my favorite fights of recent times. Magneto vs. Uranos is honestly an epic fight. And yes, Magneto is technically a hero at that point in his story, but he certainly started as a villain, and I really love this fight, and this is in part my list, so I'm gonna count it. Okay? Magneto and Uranos came to blows when the Eternals, the race of superpowered beings, not the superhero group themselves, decided that all mutants were actually also deviants and decided to declare war on them as a result. Current Prime Eternal Druig let out Uranos, one of the worst of the Eternal prisoners, to wreak havoc on Mars, aka now planet Araco, for 1 hour, to help Druig in defeating the mutants. During this time, Uranos severely, and I mean severely, messed up Magneto, but while he thought he'd killed Magneto, he was wrong. And Magneto, teamed up with Storm, would return to take Uranos down the next time they came to blows. At the time, the fight cost Magneto his life, and it was an epic battle. You can check it out in the AXE event in the X-Men Red tie-in issue in issue number 5, and AXE Judgment Day issue number 4.
Number 6. Magneto versus the Red Skull. Now this is not really a fight, it's more like a total domination. Magneto and the Red Skull are on opposite sides of history. Magneto grew up in a Jewish family living in Germany during World War II, and we all know Red Skull and Hydra's stance in World War II Germany. So it's safe to say that these two villains will almost never get along. But in Acts of Vengeance from 1989, Magneto and Red Skull were actually temporarily united. But it's really important to note that Magneto was unsure whether this was the Red Skull that aided Germany in the mass wipeout of his people. So Magneto confronted Red Skull, and Red Skull confirmed that he was indeed the original. And just like that, it didn't take much for Magneto, the Master of Magnetism, to overpower the Skull. But unlike what you might think, Magneto does not take his life. Instead, the Red Skull wakes up in a pitch black bunker with Magneto turning a flashlight on him as he monologues at him about how ending his life would just make Magneto no better than a common killer, no better than Red Skull. And then he reminds him how he is much better than Red Skull. Magneto explains Skull's new situation: solitary confinement in a stripped down fallout shelter 20 feet underground with no ladder to the escape hatch, 10 gallons of water he is going to have to conserve, and Magneto rips out Skull's homing transmitters. He gives him no food, no light, just water and air, and he leaves him to wish that Magneto had just ended his life. Nice.
Number 5. Kang vs. Thanos. While in the main continuity, Kang has sometimes been shown to be kind of terrified of Thanos, which honestly, reasonable, there are a few counterpoints that we have to prove that Kang may actually be the one who comes out on top if these two ever had to dramatically face off, which many out there I know are hoping they'll do in the MCU. Me, while I enjoy a good supervillain face-off as much as the next person, I don't necessarily believe in power scaling, so I don't really need this fight to happen per se, but even I wouldn't say no if it was like offered to me on a platter. Just because I think it would be a cool fight, honestly. Kang has been shown to have defeated multiple alternate reality Avengers teams in the comics. Something that he's actually alluded to as well in the MCU in Quantumania was simply his own 2 hands, which puts him at a higher level, I would say, than Thanos in regards to his ingenuity and his resourcefulness. After all, Thanos was dependent on Infinity Stones or Infinity Gems, if you prefer the classic term, to do this. Although that being said, I don't think he needs Infinity Gems to win the day. However, in Mech Strike issue number 4, which takes place in an alternate reality, Kang also made quick work of Thanos, who was fighting with the alternate reality team of mech-wielding Avengers. Kang, being a master of time, used that time to age Thanos, reducing him to bones within a few quick and brutal panels.
In at number 4 today is Thrag vs. Battle Beast. Now, some people may come for me here saying that Battle Beast is a hero. Some would agree that he is a villain. I'd say that Battle Beast fights for his own reasons on both sides, as long as it serves his goal. And what is that goal? He lives to find his equal and better in combat so that they can bring the end of his life in an honorable battle. The Viltrumites from the Invincible series are a race of near invulnerable, incredibly strong, world-conquering aliens, but none among them stands as strong, as invulnerable, as Grand Regent Thrag. Battle-hardened over thousands of years, only the most powerful characters can even hope to stand stand one-on-one against this powerhouse, and this makes him the perfect opponent for Battle Beast, and their fight is intense. Now, the Coalition of Worlds organized the use of Ragnars, which are one of the only species of aliens who have proven strong enough to take down Viltrumites. Battle Beast was told that they would only be released if he failed to take down Thrag. So, when they were released right at the start of the fight and gave Thrag a massive wound, Battle Beast was actually incredibly peed off, and it decided to stop fighting Thrag and instead help him to defeat the Ragnars so that they could have a fair fight. Which Thrag even remarks was kinda stupid. But not only did he take away his own advantage, but he even injured himself in the same way Thrag had been injured, just so he wouldn't have an unfair advantage. This fight continued in the background of the entire next issue, and it didn't actually end until 5 issues later when Thrag finally claimed victory. It's definitely one of the best fights of the entire series.
Number 3, Darkseid vs. Imperiex. Although these two didn't face head on, there was a time when Darkseid and the villain Imperiex fought against one another. Granted, Darkseid did so while teamed up with the Justice League. He did so to seemingly help save Earth, but in reality, he had ulterior motives that were much more sinister because he's still Darkseid. If you thought Darkseid was deadly, Imperiex may have actually been even more so. While Darkseid wants to rule the universe, Imperix's sole purpose is basically to destroy it. Darkseid, however, hoped to defeat Imperiex so that he might steal his energy and use it to conquer everything. But then, Brainiac 13 beat him to that, and so Darkseid was forced to assist fully in defeating Imperiex. And basically, forgo his own plan. He's like, dang it, Brainiac, you beat me to it.
Number 2, Thanos vs. Darkseid. When the story of Marvel vs. DC was being planned out, publishers from both sides made decisions for how certain battles would conclude, but they also allowed fans to determine the outcome of certain battles as well. So as you can imagine, the battle between what is arguably DC and Marvel's biggest bad guys ever left fans rather divided, with the two often being compared and contrasted, and even claims that one is a copy of another. This battle was a long time coming. It was an interesting one, kind of told in little snippets throughout the 4 issues of the story. We see them first come face to face, and then Thanos approaches the battle with a pretty respectable threat against the ruler of Apocalypse. Darkseid, on the other hand, dropped all sense of mutual respect, and he straight up called Thanos a pale imitation of himself. Kind of a sick burn. Then, later on, Darkseid 6 Lobo on Thanos before coming to face him properly. Then, their fight is interrupted by the heroes showing up to intervene, and then the whole merging of the 2 universes is settled by the fighting entities of the Living Tribunal and the Spectre. So we don't even definitively get an end here. Now I gotta be honest though, I do believe that Darkseid would win 9 times out of 10. He just has way more going for him than Thanos does, and that's saying a lot. Now if you disagree, feel free to drop a comment and tell me why, because I am curious to know.
Number 1, Batman Who Laughs vs. Perpetua. When you think about just who Batman Who Laughs is on paper, it doesn't sound insanely strong. But then you consider how wild his mind would be if we took, Bruce Wayne, Batman, and we took the Joker and we combined those 2 people. And just what he would then be capable of. And yeah, kinda does make sense. Perpetua is literally one of the most powerful beings in the DC multiverse, so honestly that's a given. These two duked it out near the end of Dark Knight's death metal, and surprisingly, Batman Who Laughs was able to turn the tables on Perpetua, sealing her back in the Source Wall before shattering it and thereby destroying her.
Coming in at number 10, we've got Deathstroke vs. Gorilla Grodd, 2 villains with an unexpected rivalry with incredibly tragic origins. While working for the villainous organization Hive, Deathstroke and his ex-wife Adeline Kane are captured when the group is surprise attacked by Vandal Savage and Gorilla Grodd, the latter of which winds up cutting Adeline's throat for a ritual to unlock the power of the Fountain of Youth. Outraged and heartbroken, Deathstroke would go on a violent spree to exact revenge on Grodd, attacking the heart of gorilla civilization and killing multiple intelligent apes in his search for his true enemy, a situation where nobody wins and the villains just continue hurting themselves and others more and more.
Coming in at number 9, Green Goblin vs. Hobgoblin. Green Goblin vs. Hobgoblin seems to only have happened in the 90s Spider-Man animated series that I love to talk about, but it could have happened elsewhere, just according to my research. After Hobgoblin was introduced before Green Goblin, Osborn went kinda nuts because, Goblin. But since Osborn was the one who equipped the Hobgoblin, he was able to know where he'd be and who he was under the mask, resulting in Goblin attacking Hobby at Wilson Fisk's tower base. voice kind of thing, who had also been discovered by Spider-Man, who was shocked to see multiple goblins. This fight was certainly more tame since it was a 90s cartoon, but it's still pretty damn cool to see the goblins going at it, in like a fighting to see which goblin reigns supreme kind of way, not going in any other way, you freaking sickos, okay? I know where your mind is. While you're in the gutter, could you please clear it out? Okay, it's full of leaves.
Coming in at number 8, we've got Ultimate Dr. Octopus versus Ultimate Green Goblin. In the Ultimate Marvel universe, both Otto Octavius and Norman Osborn became their supervillain alter egos in the same accident, with Otto's mechanical arms being grafted onto his body in the same experiment that transformed Norman Osborn into a muscular version of the Green Goblin. After fighting together against Spider-Man for years, Doc Ock finally saw an opportunity to leave his life of crime behind when he was freed from prison. However, the Green Goblin refused to give up on his quest for revenge, and after being enraged by Otto's comments on Spider-Man potentially being their greatest creation as scientists, he flat out murdered Octavius in the street to keep the rest of his superpowered followers in line. That's gonna be a yikes from me, Norman.
And at 7, New Goblin vs. Sandman and Venom. Spider-Man 3, while not the most favorite Sam Raimi movie, is still, in my opinion, a good movie. I like the scenes that everyone finds to be cringy, because I'm just a cringy guy. That thing, that's me. But I also love the climactic battle. Seeing Spider-Man get pummeled by 2 villains is certainly a harrowing sight, especially when he's already basically lost everything. But then an unlikely hero comes in, a man who has been the villain the whole movie. Harry Osborn, also known as the New Goblin, who had taken the same serum as his father but ends up using it in a better way. He ends up being critical in the fight against Sandman and Venom, using his bombs to take down Sandman and helping Peter save MJ and get to Venom before it was too late. This is certainly not a cop-out for this list though, because he was the villain the whole movie, okay? At least when he didn't lose his memories. Let's be honest here, okay? You know that even if it had its moments, it was still a good movie. I will die on this hill every single time.
If they can edit this in, I'm also in support of Spider-Man 3. I'll put that on the record. Coming in at number 6, we have to go with the Riddler versus the Joker, a confrontation so huge that it spawned an entire comic book event and turned all the villains of Gotham City against one another. When the Riddler reached out to the Joker to ask for his help in teaming up to finally kill the Batman together, the Joker responded by unexpectedly shooting the Riddler flat out in the stomach. This one act of violence kickstarted a series of escalations that wouldn't stop until hundreds more were dead and all of Gotham City had been carved out by the 2 warring factions. And while the 2 villains would eventually reconcile after Batman foiled both of their master plans, it just goes to show how dangerous 2 angry supervillains pointed at one another can be.
Halfway through in at number 5, Venom vs. Carnage. Venom vs. Carnage comes up whenever and whatever reality Carnage is introduced in. And while yes, Venom is a villain, he has a purpose. The symbiote wants to get back to Spider-Man and Brock wants to kill him. Sometimes the 2 share this goal. However, Carnage just wants, well, Carnage. So when he starts going a little too berserk, Venom does end up teaming up with Peter to stop him. Whether it's just because he needs Spider-Man alive, or Carnage goes too far and kidnaps someone Brock cares about, like in the 90s animated cartoon. But either way, it's certainly an interesting scenario, especially with Venom Let There Be Carnage having come out recently, which features this fight just as literally the main point of the movie. However, usually Venom doesn't seem to fear his asexually spawned son, which is, it's still weird. Carnage is Venom's son. That's an awkward family reunion. Like, why are there so many awkward familial relationships in comic books? I don't get it. Like, oh, what are you doing, step symbiote?
Coming in at number 4, we've got 2 of the most powerful villains in the Marvel Universe with Thanos versus Galactus. Now, with power levels as high as these 2, their battling is a topic that is often debated by fans, as different encounters have led to very different outcomes. In situations where he's faced Galactus without an item such as the Infinity Gauntlet on hand, Thanos has been essentially outmatched, only capable of landing a single blow on Galactus before the godlike strength of the Power Cosmic was able to defeat him. However, Thanos has a particular fondness for the Infinity Gems, they kind of made a few movies about those, and these powerful stones put him on a much more even playing field, able to beat the Power Cosmic down into submission and even crushing Galactus between 2 different planets. Come on guys, can't we all just just learn to get along.
Getting close to the end in number 3, Doomsday vs. Darkseid. After a battle in Metropolis, Superman attached Doomsday's body to an asteroid, which is freaking brutal, and then he flung that asteroid into space. However, the issue ended with a panel of the reawakened and laughing Doomsday, still chained to the asteroid but otherwise alive. After passing through a wormhole, Doomsday's asteroid was found by a deep space scavenger ship. Upon examination of the particularly looking drifting rock, the ship crew retrieved the object, hoping to find something of value. The scavenger vessel happened to be en route to Apocalypse, and you know what's gonna happen now. Darkseid has since been empowered by the fabled Omega Force after his first encounter with Doomsday, and oh yeah, they've already fought together at one point. But Doomsday was fully rested this time because, you know, he was chained to a freaking asteroid, and after slaughtering the crew of the salvage ship, found himself landing on a harsh world. Unknown to Superman, Doomsday had faced off and beaten Darkseid in single combat, even after withstanding the full effect of Darkseid's Omega beams, and then he just laid waste to Apocalypse. And like, while the fight may have happened off screen, or I guess off page, it's pretty damn terrifying knowing that Doomsday just beat Darkseid just because he could.
Coming in at number 2, we've got our boy Thanos again, but this time he's facing off with Dr. Doom. And unfortunately, while the Infinity Gems might have given the Mad Titan the strength to stand up to Galactus and the Power Cosmic, in this one specific battle with Doom, Thanos didn't stand a chance. During the Battleworld saga, in which Victor Von Doom had become God Emperor Doom, Thanos approached his enemy on the battlefield and tried to give Doom one last chance to bow before a true god. And sadly for Thanos, he was vastly overestimating himself, as God Emperor Doom was capable of pulling a Mortal Kombat style fatality and pulling Thanos' spine and skull out of his still living body. And while eventually Doom would be overthrown and the Marvel Universe put back mostly to normal, Thanos will definitely think twice before trying to smack talk Dr. Doom ever again.
Finally, in at number 1, Joker vs. Red Skull. In 1996, Batman and Captain America came together for a crossover the likes of which nobody had ever seen. I mean, that's probably slightly exaggerated, but this was still a highly anticipated team up because, let's be real, it's Cap and Batman. However, when two heroes team up, you know that their villains are bound to as well. So the Joker and Red Skull had formed an alliance. That is, until the Joker found out who Red Skull really served, that being the German soldiers present in World War II, because I can't mention them for monetization reasons. Thanks YouTube, let's censor history. What are you, the public school system? Anyway, after finding out Red Skull's affiliations and who was really involved in the plan, Joker turned on Red Skull, showing that he at least had a bit of a moral code, saying, quote, "I may be a criminal lunatic, but I'm an American criminal lunatic." I don't know why Joker was shocked, given that Red Skull was literally walking around with that symbol on his chest, but Joker just seemed to think that it was a crazy disguise, which is the dumbest thing ever. Like, I think that's the dumbest thing that Joker's ever done. Like, even if it was a disguise, would you really want to be seen with that just walking around? Even if you are a criminal lunatic? Because of course not. You said it yourself. You're an American criminal lunatic. I mean, like, think for once, bro. Come on. And at 10, Magneto vs. Red Skull. Even when the Joker doesn't want to work with the Red Skull, it's surprising that Marvel tried to make this team up work. In Captain America number 367, during the Acts of Vengeance storyline, multiple villains had changed their target, or I guess their adversaries, in an attempt to catch them off guard. However, the alliance of Magneto and Red Skull was yet another short-lived one thanks to Red Skull's, allegiances. Red Skull tried to fight back, but let's be honest, there was nothing he could really do to stop Magneto. Eventually, Magneto ended up winning, which seems obvious, but instead of killing Red Skull, Magneto did what he thought would be the worst thing he could do. He trapped Red Skull in an abandoned bomb shelter, seemingly from World War II, or at least that's what I would have done, and left him with just enough water for a few weeks. I'm not sure about food, but to be fair, you can go like 3 weeks without food or something like that. Isn't there like the rule of like 3s or whatever, right? Like 3 days for water, 3 weeks for food. So even giving him no food, Red Skull would still have a few weeks. And at 9, Lex Luthor vs. Mazas. Alexander Luthor was one of the heroes of Earth 3, and was the crime syndicate's most formidable and greatest enemy, having killed off many of its members over the years, including Hawkwing and Will Baston. He also had the ability to absorb the powers of any superhero, superpowered being that he killed, through the lightning of Mazas, which is Shazam backwards. Alexander was brought to Earth Prime by the crime syndicate of his world thanks to Superwoman when the villains sought refuge in the fallen Justice League Watchtower. However, since they were on Earth Prime, Alexander ended up running into Lex, and he tried to kill Lex. But as he tried, Bizarro attacked him. Bizarro stood no match, and as Alexander prepared to kill his Prime Earth counterpart of Lex Luthor, Lex ended up realizing that they both sounded the same. They both spoke the same way because, you know, they're both a Lex Luthor. So he held on to the future lightning rod that Black Adam had shoved into Mazal's chest and yelled his magic word, taking Alex's power away with a blast of dark lightning. The magic word being Shazam backwards, if you couldn't tell. Lex then proceeded to stab Alex in the chest fatally a second time and covering his mouth to prevent him from saying the magic word once again to save himself, avenging the fallen Bizarro, but I doubt that that's what that was about. And at 8, The Lizard vs. Dr. Doom. The Lizard vs. Dr. Doom actually takes place in the Spider-Man 90s animated series. Well, at least the version I'm talking about. And is the 11th episode of the 5th season, which is actually around the end of the series, with this episode also being the final appearance of the Black Cat. The episode entitled Secret Wars Part 3 Doom is about Spider-Man and his amazing friends of Captain America, Iron Man, Storm, Black Cat, the Lizard, and the Fantastic Four going to the new Latveria that Doom had created on this world and stopping him. However, this obviously results in a fight, and Lizard, who currently has Dr. Connor's intelligence thanks to Reed Richards, assists the heroes in this battle, resulting in Dr. Doom vs. Lizard. The whole point of this 3-episode arc was that the Beyonder had found a world that did not know evil, and set Red Skull, Dr. Doom, the Lizard, and Doc Ock loose on this earth just to see what would happen. And then, after 6 months, the world was in ruins, and he tasks Spider-Man to save the world in the ultimate battle of good against evil. This story is directly followed by the Spider-War storyline in the show, where they ended up introducing Spider-Carnage, my favorite character in the show, but it's still something interesting to behold. And it's 7, Captain Cold vs. Johnny Quick. In the same issue as Lex vs. Reverse Shazam, Captain Cold is brought to the Watchtower to assist the heroes in stopping the Injustice League. However, it didn't look like things were going in Snart's favor during Forever Evil 006, since Johnny Quick had him against a wall, saying, you know, I killed you on my Earth too. Only that version didn't have this stupid ass freeze gun. If only you could use it, which honestly seems like he had him by the ropes, until Snart simply says, jingle bells, Batman smells, which activates a remote trigger, causing the gun to shoot Johnny Quick in the leg. This, followed by a swift kick to the frozen section of thigh, shatters the dominant leg of Skidmark, as Snart called him, which I find absolutely hilarious. Ending the scene with a, see, Flash and I got mutual respect. That's the difference between you and him, besides having 2 legs. I don't know why I think he sounds like that, I just do. It's probably because he started off the phrase with C, but it's certainly a moment that I'm sure Snart had been waiting a long time for, even if it wasn't his Flash, but if he did that, that would ruin their mutual respect, see? And at 6, Venom vs. Toxin. Born from Carnage as the 1000th symbiote in his lineage, Toxin was feared to be the strongest and most dangerous of their race by both Carnage and Venom. Carnage fears you, that's a bad thing. Shortly after being born, the symbiote united with police officer Pat Mulligan. Years later, the symbiote was removed from Mulligan by Blackheart, who beat Pat Mulligan to death in a gutter. With the help of Venom though, Jack-O-Lantern took it to his boss, Crime Master. Crime Master found the perfect host in Eddie Brock, who he forced to become Toxin's host. At this point, Eddie Brock wasn't Venom's host, it was Flash Thompson. After bonding with Eddie, Toxin took over its host and worked with the Savage Six, attacking its grandfather symbiote Venom. Toxin tells Venom that after Venom is gone, only it will remain for an event that it called the Spawning. The meaning of this is unknown as of now, but that doesn't matter. Venom managed to incapacitate Toxin, but chose not to kill it or its host, because it was Eddie. Later, Toxin attacked Venom and was separated from Eddie, so Venom set the symbiote on fire, but it managed to grab hold of Eddie and drag him into the flames to die alongside it. But they didn't actually end up dying, so he was back. Halfway through, in at number 5, Joker vs. Simon. Physicist Simon Jones was working on experiments in contacting other dimensions when he was contacted, in turn, by the demon Trigon the Terrible, the father of the superhero Teen Titan known as Raven. Trigon used his abilities to transform Jones into a powerful psychic with telepathic and telekinetic powers, and gave him the mission to just destroy the Earth. Finding an ad by the psychopathic supervillain Dr. Light in the Underworld Star, a criminal underground paper, Jones, now calling himself Simon, Simon, with a PSI, joined Light's new group, the Fearsome Five. However, after various outings as a supervillain, recently Simon was seen among the new Injustice League and was one of the villains featured in Salvation Run, exiled to a new savage world. He attempted to convince his fellow supervillains that escape was impossible, and then proceeded to lay down plans for beginning a new civilization. However, he was interrupted by the Joker, who killed him by breaking the dome which housed his brain and repeatedly smashing it with a rock. Gotta love those kinda quick yet brutal killings. Am I right, fellas? In at 4, Ultron vs Thanos. Ultron vs Thanos is an idea that we've been asking as comic fans for a while. However, this question was actually answered thanks to the Disney Plus series of What If. In the 8th episode of season 1, we got to see what would have happened to the MCU if Ultron had won and gotten the Vision's body. If the heroes had failed to steal it and put Jarvis's code inside, Ultron would have wiped everything out, apparently, using the Mind Stone and his vibranium body to decimate everything and everyone, until only he remained. However, it was certainly easier to do this after Thanos showed up with the other 5 Infinity Stones. We expected a climactic and epic battle, but instead got, honestly, what would probably be pretty realistic. Ultron as Vision simply says fascinating and then uses the Mind Stone to slice Thanos in half, resulting in him collecting all the Infinity Stones at once and just ruining everyone and everything, showing us that the worst mistake in the MCU was killing Vision before Thanos showed up. Like, why didn't he just think, oh yeah, I'll just slice him in two? Getting close to the end in number 3, General Zod vs the Suicide Squad. Amanda Waller, director of Task Force X, has handpicked the members of her Suicide Squad to handle any dirty job she throws their way. This time, however, what she wants belongs to one of Superman's deadliest antagonists, and getting it is more important than ever. But no matter what Waller may hold over him, Zod kneels to no one, and it's not long before he and the rest of Task Force X are at each other's throats. Will Waller's plan to make this Kryptonian war criminal a full-fledged member of the Suicide Squad live up to its enormous potential? Or will it actually doom the entire planet to devastation and alien enslavement? That's the question, isn't it? In the Suicide Squad Volume 4 Earthlings on Fire storyline, Task Force X goes toe-to-toe with General Zod while trying to steal a piece of kryptonite from LexCorp. However, the story actually ends up with Zod joining the team after getting a kryptonite bomb implanted in his brain. Ha! Ouch. Penultimately, in number 2, Venom vs Null. Null is an eldritch god of darkness and the creator of all the symbiotes. He is the main antagonist of Venom Volume 4 and the King in Black event. Born from the primordial void that exists between the 6th and 7th cosmos, Null claims dominion over the void and to be its avatar, because of course he does. Why wouldn't he? But while he is a god of the void, he is not the primordial darkness itself. Awakened by the light when the Celestials invaded his kingdom of darkness, he created the first symbiote in the form of a sword and decapitated a Celestial with it. Yeah, he used the head's divine power to refine the blade, creating a metaphysical connection between the primordial symbiote and its slain cosmic god, which would be the source of most of Null's tremendous power. However, during the King in Black event, not only did Venom help fight against Null, but so did Toxin. Toxin in fact combined with 2 other symbiotes in order to help take Null down, which they did end up succeeding in, even if Null had already given all or most of the Marvel characters their own symbiote at the time. Finally, in number 1, Lex Luthor and Joker vs Alexander Luthor. Infinite Crisis was the reboot of the DC multiverse after Crisis on Infinite Earths had destroyed it. But of course, thanks to the genius of Alexander Luthor, the Lex from Earth 3 that was supposed to be killed but wasn't because of the new Earth made by Crisis, he thought that recreating the multiverse and that he should do so in his own image. Again, of course he did. Luthor becomes confident enough of this plan though to finally reveal his presence to Kal-El's cousin Power Girl, who had recently not remembered that she was the only survivor of the former Earth 2. Luthor told her that the current reality was corrupt because it had used Earth 1 as a template, and that, with her help, he and her cousin could reform the universe with Earth 2 as its basis. But he ends up in essence waiting to turn this new Earth into the rest of the multiverse into his kingdom because, you know, again, gotta do what you gotta do. Just as he's about to carry out his plan though, the original Lex Luthor along with the Joker show up and kill him. But let's be honest, it probably wasn't for long. Like, man, we can't have like a genuinely good Lex Luthor, can we? Like, unless he's like raising his son while living with his brother Charlie. Oh wait, no, that's just John Cryer.